Mocast, the podcast beyond World of Warcraft.
Hello everybody to another Mocast episode. Dude, what number
It's
is
number 8, you fool.
Number 8. Hey man, I was in a vacation for 1 week. In a vacation. Yeah, that's how people talk.
Welcome to the podcast that goes beyond the World of Warcraft with World of Warcraft community figures, and we talk a bunch of stuff. Oh, yeah. And last time we had Akalon in here and we talked a lot of good, inspiring, and I don't know, maybe some more personal stuff with him. Yeah, but today, who do we have today, Flame?
Well, guys, you might have heard him. You might have seen a tier list.
yeah.
But our guest today is none other than the man,
the Dratnos.
Dratnos!
Hello.
Welcome, buddy. Welcome. Man, I gotta say, when I first discovered you, and I think I can speak for a lot of the people watching and listening, it was in BFA actually. But the journey of Dratnos starts way earlier. I mean, I'm pretty sure I speak for a lot of us Mythic Dungeon players that we have learned a lot from Dratnos, his tier list, from his guides, and man,
I use the routes every week.
Oh, there you go. But okay. Enough talking from us. Let's let the man talk a little bit about himself. So for the folks who don't know who you are, Dratnos, can you tell them what it is that you do? What is it with Dratnos?
So I started making content really in BFA actually. So mid-season 1, I started putting dungeon routes for every dungeon up on Reddit. Yep. And then those got picked up into like a Raider.io weekly article. And I started making videos and streaming and stuff as well. And then since then, I've started writing like articles for Wowhead. And I casted the Race to World First, Complexity Limits Race to World First, back in Nilotha in February. Yep. And then I casted the MDI this summer as well. So things really spiraled up from there at the start, a little less than 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into that spiral. Don't you worry, because there's a lot behind what happened there for sure.
There are a lot of things that I definitely am curious about. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like Marcelian said, your journey on YouTube, because we're talking about WoW and everything, started way before. And before we get into that, what I want to know is, because I know your first WoW video, but exactly. When did you start playing WoW? Like, it doesn't have to be on YouTube and anything. And when did you either tell to yourself or said, okay, I want to take this a little bit more seriously, maybe progression rating or whatever like that?
Yeah, when
was that? When did that happen?
So I've been playing WoW on and off since patch 2.1 as a Black Temple patch. I was very young back then. I was like 13. Started playing on my very bad computer, rating Karazhan for the whole expansion, so never progressed past Karazhan, except for there were 2 easy bosses. There was one easy boss in Serpentrine Cavern, the Lurker below, and there was an easy boss in the Tempest Keep, Void Reaver, and so we'd go in and kill those each week as well, but none of the other bosses. So we just collect a little bit of loot, and that was my entire Burning Crusade. Then in Wrath of the Lich King, I played a little bit more. There were some summers in high school there where I would raid quite a bit, but never really got too much into it, except maybe a little bit in ICC. And then between then and Legion, I kind of just casually played. From like some patches I'd play, some patches I wouldn't. Level a guy up, maybe do a little bit of normal or heroic raiding. I never really played any kind of, I never played challenge modes or any of that kind of stuff. And then when Legion came out, was nearing the end of my college career, and I decided to play pretty seriously from when Legion hit. And that was when I started playing. I was in a heroic guild for Emerald Nightmare, but by the time Trial of Valor came out, I was in a cutting edge guild, and I've stayed in a cutting edge guild of one sort or another since then.
Yeah. Right. For the Mythic Plus, because I don't know, for me, I always saw you as the go-to guy for the Mythic Plus ones. When you first heard of the system, because you said you kind of got back into it more seriously, I would say, or competitively in Legion, and that was the expansion that introduced the Mythic Plus system. Were you one of the folks like us who super excited about it? Did that really take you and it's okay, I'm doing raiding, but this Mythic Plus shit, this is the shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Mythic Plus is awesome. I played it. That was how I got into. So the first guild I got into that was a cutting edge guild. How I jumped from a guild that couldn't kill Nithendra to a guild that had already killed Xavius in Emerald Nightmare was it was from people I was playing Mythic Plus with that got me like a trial in their cutting edge guild. So yeah, Mythic Plus since the start I've really liked it. I wasn't super like serious about it in Legion. Like in Legion, I did a plus 10 fairly early into the expansion, but not in the first couple months, I don't think. And then from there, I played it on and off throughout the expansion. I had guildies that were in the MDI in Legion, but I myself didn't play. And then starting in BFA, that was when I was playing a rogue at the start of BFA. And it turns out the rogues were really good at the start of BFA and have been since.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, what a shock.
Yeah. So that led to some of those guildies actually that had competed in the MDI and Legion invited me to like push the first 15 with them. So we did that. We got that with a Taltazar run where we pulled basically every pack that nobody ever pulls anymore. We went just complete opposite directions from. That was what the start of an expansion was like. I'm really excited for Shadowlands to be like that again. Do stuff that we've realized in 6 months was completely wrong.
It's a beautiful thing to just get to explore and discover new stuff. That's the beauty of it for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, it's great. Man, the start of an expansion is a really good time for that kind of stuff.
Exciting times indeed.
Yeah, you did mention playing Rogue at the beginning of the BFA, and that's actually how I found you. I was getting into Rogue, and I was looking on YouTube. It's like, I want to know before we started, because we do like class guides of our own now. It's more on the basic side, like nothing super advanced. But I was like, I want to know what Rogue is played with, because I never play Rogue, and I think you're the only one that was doing PvE content in terms of like guides or at least strategies or tips and tricks. I don't know. I think I saw all of your initial Outlaw videos, but I've seen you on our videos and in our stream you play other stuff. Like, what is your main? If you had to choose, what would be your main class or spec or whatever you want that you would just 24/7 nonstop play it?
Yeah, so at the start of this expansion, I was like Rogue only for the first year of the expansion. It was good for everything I wanted to play, and when I started making content, it was nice to just have a main spec. But then in Crucible of Storms for Unot progression.
Yeah.
That was really, really melee unfriendly. When we reached Unot in particular, it was horrific to bring more than like a couple melee there, because there was the car crash mechanic where everybody would get their symbol above their head, and if you ran into somebody with a different symbol than you, it was over. So we quickly were cutting as many melee as we could from our roster, and simultaneously Elemental Shaman on that fight were extremely strong, not just for damage. It was Elemental Shaman are really good at like priority damage funneling onto a target, and that fight had all these ads you could put flame shocks on, do big damage to the boss from. But also it had this mechanic where you would get this storm that you wanted to channel it for a tick, so it would kill all the ads because the ads otherwise couldn't die.
Yep.
But you didn't want to keep channeling it for the full duration because it would do reduced damage for your whole team. So Elemental Shaman could channel it for a tick and then die and onk. Yep. So for that reason, we were like, okay, Elemental Shaman really sick for this fight. The world first guild that got that boss was Pieces, and they had like 5 Elemental Shaman. It's a really good move for that fight. We didn't have any on our roster, so I switched to Elemental Shaman from melee for that boss, and it worked out so well that I stayed Elemental Shaman throughout Eternal Palace. It was less good of a tier for Elemental Shaman than Crucible was, but it was still fine.
Yeah.
And then moving into Nihilotha, we had a tank leave. Our raid times changed, didn't quite work out anymore. So I switched to tank for Nihilotha. And that is what I'm going to be doing in Shadowlands, is what it currently looks like as well. So really, I'm kind of, I wouldn't describe myself as having a main class or role or anything now. I kind of just play any non-healer that we need for raid.
What is it? Like Akalon was like this too. Like, I'm gonna play a healer. What is it about the healers, man? Why don't healers don't get any love?
The healers are not getting love.
The job's like, it's 3 times harder than any of the other roles for raiding.
Right.
And you also get all the blame when stuff goes wrong way more often. There's just no upside and a whole lot of downside to playing healer. That's why nobody does it. That's why, by the way, if you're a healer, my guild's recruiting, please send us an app to need a healer badly.
Look it up, guys. But that being said, we have all the love for the healers. I mean, we understand the struggle.
Well, our guild has more healers than DPSers.
Yeah, it's fine. We don't have an issue with that, but we're like super hardcore heroic progression, Dratnos. You know anything about that?
Yeah, that was the guild. I was in a guild that was like that in Emerald Nightmare. That was
a good time.
We cleared through Xavius, and it took us a couple weeks, and then we got Xavius down, and then we spent 2 hours on Mythic Nythendra, and we decided we were never going to kill it, so we just left, and we never pulled Mythic bosses again. And that was the end of that.
I guess that's the journey for a lot of the folks who like try to like step it up from heroic and go into mythic. It's beautiful when you look back. It's good stories and it's good experiences nonetheless to share. Now, Dratnos, in terms of expansions, you play since Burning Crusade, but now I'm curious because it sounds like you played the most competitive, or the most serious in BFA. What would be your favorite expansion so far? Do you like BFA?
So I think BFA gets a little bit more hate than it
should, right?
Oh yeah.
Than it should. Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, I think the most important things for World of Warcraft for me to have fun are good dungeons, good raids, and then all the other kind of like whatever grindy AP system they put in. Like those can be negative for an expansion. I think the AP grinds of both BFA and Legion had more bad than good, but they're a lot less important than are the raids fun, are the dungeons fun. And I think that in BFA, largely that was a success. I think Legion was maybe more successful on that front. So Legion, also very good expansion, maybe better. But definitely, I think that the game is good recently, and I like it.
It's like I feel that in comparison to Legion, right? Because Legion had the same grind in terms of, the endless grind for artifact power. But I think Legion also had much more things to keep you not so focused on the grind. BFA didn't have that. I think that was the main issue in terms of the scope and vision of the players. Like BFA just had you, listen, you have to do this, shut up. While Legion was, hey, you have to do this, but look at all this other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and when you got AP in Legion, you'd unlock a trait in your artifact weapon, and like those artifact weapons, it was really cool. You had this big tree that you were filling out, and even though you were grinding for the AP, each of those individual steps felt pretty great to hit.
Yes.
But in BFA, you're just like, my necklace is leveled up from 38 to 39. This is
a number.
Fantastic.
Got two more stamina
there.
A bigger number. Ooh. Yeah, it's but one thing that is looking good, at least so far, is that this whole borrowed power, player power that we get from external sources in the game will be available from the get-go. Hopefully, they'll not introduce anything more further down the line in Shadowlands. What do you think about this? Do you think it's a good idea?
I wouldn't be surprised to see more complicated, more stuff layered onto the game as the expansion progresses. But I do think that 9.0 is likely to be a lot less empty feeling than 8.0 was. Because in 8.0, we had our base character kit and then like 3 pieces of Azurite armor with 1 ring each, right? And so characters felt very unfinished at that time.
Oh, yeah.
I think going into Shadowlands, we're going to have our Covenant abilities, we'll have our Soulbind trees, we'll have our legendaries on day 1, right? Or week 1, we'll get access to those things. And so, yes, I think that Shadowlands is going to do a better job of hitting the ground running and not making the classes feel so barren at the start.
Blend, yeah. That's what I always said about BFA. It was that feeling when you got max level, everything felt so hollow, especially your class is like, man, I mean, because it was the difference between you coming from Legion and then from Legion to the prior expansions, you always got something at max level to go towards to and felt that impact. BFA didn't have that.
BFA, you would level up from 115 to 116 and your character would just get so much worse. All your legendaries would turn off. I think that's why they're taking away corruption in the pre-patch rather than when we're leveling up. They don't want that hate to be put onto Shadowlands. They want to just get it out of the way now, rip the Band-Aid off.
I mean, and let's not forget, if you were a Shadow Priest or any kind of shaman that was not resto, and you came into BFA, you came with like Ian telling you, we didn't have time for you guys, so sorry.
It was a pain.
I remember the time where Resto Shaman was doing more damage than Elemental in dungeons. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, see, that's not normal. That shouldn't happen. And I think at the very end of it, Shadowlands is looking a lot better already, judging by what we got into in the alpha and the beta. Yeah. Whatever the negativity is still going around, because we're always going to have negativity, and outrage and cancel and whatever. Shadowlands is going to be a better expansion, hands down.
Yeah,
I have no
doubt.
doubt.
There's doubt about it.
Okay. Well, my friends, we talked enough about World of Warcraft and expansions and all that nonsense. Let's get into a little bit more behind the camera, behind the scenes, all of that juicy stuff, the things that I like most in these podcasts. So, Dratnos, in the beginning, you mentioned that you really started to, do content creation more seriously, or I don't know, more, let's say, more structured, or with a goal from starting with BFA. However, we have done a little bit of digging up, and the YouTube channel of Dratnos, first of all, is, I believe, 8 or 9 years old.
It's turning 9, actually. Remember, it's turning 9 in like almost a month and a little bit, right?
Yes, and I have to say,
no.
as a Dratnos, as a Minecraft enthusiast myself.
You guys gotta see. I'm putting all cameras on. Fuck it. It's precious.
Dude, Dratnos, let me tell you, my friend. I took, when I was working night shifts at Xbox, I took my laptop with me and I played Minecraft the whole night. It's a beautiful game. So guys, but I'll let Dratnos, what made you start your YouTube channel and probably thinking about a future YouTube career with Minecraft?
Yeah, so I was in high school. I don't know. I don't know why I started it. I thought it'd be fun. That was like the golden age of Let's Plays when everybody was doing those. And so I started up, some modded Minecraft Let's Plays and made a YouTube channel, and went actually fairly well. But then I went on to college and didn't really. Well, I went to college, and then my first couple semesters I was in a dorm room with like 3 other people, so it was not feasible to record stuff from there basically ever. So I just kind of let the channel go into hibernate mode until I decided to revive it in BFA when I decided I wanted to have money, but I did not want to work. So
okay.
I found content creation as a alternative, provided it is obviously work. There's a lot of effort that goes into this, but it was the most tolerable work I could come up with.
Oh yeah, well, I think you realize by now that the amount of work sometimes that has to be put in is sometimes even more than you would at a 9 to 5. Especially
Absolutely.
when
it's a different kind as well, because like you're kind of always, at the end of the day, if there's a video that needs to get done or whatever, there's work that needs to get done, you don't have the normal 9 to 5 thing where at 5 you get to go home, right? You just you got to do it, right? You got to spend however long it needs, and so on some days you're just you're busy for like 18 hours doing stuff.
Exactly.
No, yeah. Oh, I have a personal question because this is like really close to my heart, but. You did start with Minecraft, and you dabbled in, I don't know, at least a few other games. One of them was Starcraft 2, and that holds a big place in my heart. Can you tell me a little bit, or tell everybody who's watching and listening, a little bit about your Starcraft 2? Like, why did you get into it? Did you find it appealing? Like, what was the purpose of even making videos about Starcraft?
I played very little Starcraft, I think. Just like if I put it on YouTube, I actually don't even remember putting any YouTube videos up about it. I have played StarCraft 2, but I don't think I have that many hours in that game. It's a game that I've watched a lot of StarCraft content. Yeah. But I haven't actually. It's one of those games I've watched more content of than I've played it. I've watched like Day 9 dailies back in the day. Yeah. That's some quality, second screen monitor stuff to watch.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like it from I like thinking about game design and stuff. And I like the way that StarCraft has managed that, like balancing in a pretty tight range, 3 different races that all do very different stuff, and trying to make, all those 9 different matchups fair and fun. It's a very exciting challenge, but I have never really been good enough at it to actually like understand all that much about it.
No, that was the time when I was really into StarCraft. I took a break from WoW for a lot of years, and when StarCraft 2 came out, I was like super heavy into StarCraft Data and everything. I was watching all of that shit.
Man, it's one thing. I mean, okay, starting with Minecraft, that's one thing. But, again, I will defend Minecraft here. I still believe it's a really creative game, and it can really disconnect you from anything, as much as any other game could do. And you did put out a lot of videos on Minecraft for a lot of the years. I know you mentioned you kind of took a break, and after you finished college, you decided, okay, let's make this happen. Let's start off a career on this. And it does show, like when you started back in BFA, and I think it was somewhere in November when you put out a video on a +19 on a Rogue or something, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. After that, your stuff really took off. I mean, from there, it was sky's the limit. And one of the things, apart from getting more and more numbers each time, I know at some point you got recommended into my YouTube feed. I was like, hey, who's this? Oh, Mythic Plus. But then you got to cast the world first and the MDI. How did that came to be? Can you? Because we asked Nagura too about this. How did that happen? Like, who? If you can talk about it, of course.
Yeah, I think I could talk. I mean, there's obviously some stuff that I can't talk about.
Sure.
But I could talk about most of it. So like I started casting. I kind of had wanted to do casting for quite a long time. You know, I always thought I thought it would be something that would be fun to do. So I casted the Keystone Masters tournament, which if you guys haven't heard about Keystone Masters, it's this great like community driven Mythic Plus tournament. There's actually one coming up this month that I'll be casting that one as well. But
we know about Keystone Masters, friends.
Yeah, it's a really cool community thing. About like maybe a year and a half ago, I casted one of those. That was the first time I got to cast anything, and that went really well. That was really fun. So I'm not sure if it was that or just the general content, but I started making a podcast with Tettles, who is an MDI caster as well. And through all this, I was kind of trying to angle my way into getting into casting, or at least being around and being somebody who'd be considered. You know, I tried to make it clear I was interested in trying that out. And then I think that, so I'm not really 100% sure who got me asked to do it for the complexity limit race to world first, but I think their guildmaster Maximum is a likely candidate, because I think he's I think I owe him a lot of credit for like asking them to get me to cast there, because then I got to cast that, and from there I think that was what got me to then get to cast the MDI, was people seeing the casting there and thinking it was good enough.
Well, definitely. I mean, you did an amazing job. I mean, the energy, the commentary, two little pauses in between. There's a lot of stuff. Plus, the voice also is important. But I'm more curious on how did the conversation start? I mean, when you probably got reached out by Blizzard or something. How did that conversation go? Like, hey, hello there. Would you be interested in doing this for us, or how did that go?
Yeah, like, hey, we saw you casting this event or whatever. You want to have a conversation about maybe casting the MDI, and that went from there. It's
like, because did you have to do like a trial run prior to like being accepted or something like that? Because I know I'm asking because Nagura says so. Nagura was actually trialed before,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I think that mostly just like the first time I was casting was most of a trial run. I don't know. I mean, it was when I started casting, it was this time of big upheaval, because initially the MDI that I cast, the first one I cast, was going to be a live event, right? We were going to go to a studio, but all of that got thrown into flux by this global pandemic. So there were just a bunch of factors that we were all kind of working from home and setting it up remotely and everything. And that, I don't know. I don't know if it would have been different if it had been like, I don't know if there would have been more of a trial period, that there were rehearsals for it, but I guess it was mostly just the first weekend, which for the first weekend of the remote production, my microphone sounded awful as well. And there was nothing it was not my microphone. It was just like the setup we were using to record remotely. I have the same microphone that I've always used here, a high quality one. And so I was really stressed about that. The first weekend, the first MDI cast I did, I was like, this is awful. Everybody's going to hate me, but it was okay.
No, it was okay, man.
It got better.
You did great. And it's cool, like, to have, I always felt like whenever Blizzard reach out to content creators or active people in the online sphere from World of Warcraft, they reach out to them to get them involved in Blizzard competitions and stuff. I think that's amazing. I think for the most part, that's the people you would want to do commentaries and casting over these competitions, right? It's a beautiful thing, and you did fine, man. Sound-wise, it was okay. You're stressing out too much about it, or you were.
I try to never stress about stuff. It was cool. It's usually not useful, but sometimes it's unavoidable.
It was really cool, man, and it was actually very inspiring, because casting stuff is also one of my let's say, items on my bucket list, and I always wanted to do that ever since the Starcraft 2 days. So it was really cool seeing this. Like, oh my boy, Dratnos is casting the world race. That was so cool.
Hell yeah.
I remember that. I wanted to ask you something about this because we were talking about your YouTube, and you did start with Minecraft, then did a lot of other games, but you did also start with WoW. I think it was Cataclysm, your first video. And I don't know why I'm putting your face there, man. So I'm the one talking.
Hello.
And I remember this because it was very specific. I think in the video you introduced WoW to your audience, and you said something like. World of Warcraft, what was it again? It's a very addictive game, and if you play it, it will eat 33% of your. I had to recently check it. 33% of your daily time. It's like that's so specific.
Yeah, it's very specific.
I've run the numbers again. That was an underestimate. It's far more than 33%.
Oh yeah, that's it's a ballpark number. What do you want? But what I was curious about is what you think of that statement now in like 2020 BFA, close to Shadowlands kind of stuff. Like, what do you think of that? Telling that to somebody that hasn't played yet WoW.
I think that it really depends. Like, it's not. There are some games that have this characteristic of being able to like capture all your time, and then there are people that have the characteristic of being able to have all their time captured by a video game, right? And I am very much one of those people. If a game works well for me, there's a good chance that I will play it 16 hours a day until I'm done playing it. And it's not just a World of Warcraft thing, but World of Warcraft is definitely very good at that. So would I say if you have an addictive personality, is there a chance that you'll be compelled to play World of Warcraft 16 hours a day, all day, every day? Absolutely. Yeah, it is one of several games out there that can do that to you. So I don't know if that happens, you could lose your job, lose all your friends, or you could just turn it into a job, turn it into being a content creator or being, a professional player of some sort. But honestly, I'm not sure how good advice that is because it's a lot harder to do that. And there's a lot more people that want to do it than actually end up, having the combination of skill and luck to have it work out. So be careful. If you got an addictive personality, definitely be careful with World of Warcraft. But I don't know who's watching this video that doesn't already play it, right? So
you're talking to the right people here, man. It's fine.
Preaching to the choir. Now I wanted to specifically touch on this as well because I've also been watching your Titan Forge podcast. Not as much recently. We've been like super busy with beta and everything.
Like everybody.
Yeah, like everybody. Apparently. Yeah. So I know Tettles, we actually collaborated with Trail on our Brewmaster video. That was really cool. But I was also very curious, how did the Titan Forge podcast start? I know that sometimes you host an episode, sometimes Tettles hosts an episode on you guys' channel. I'm not sure if there's like the rule for that, one time you, one time him. I didn't actually check to see if Trail has that, so I always thought that it was like the three of you, but from what you're telling me, it's just you and Tettles. So what's the story of the Titan Forge podcast episode 1?
Okay, yeah. So Tettles and I were talking. I forget what started us talking, but we were talking about like potentially collaborating on some video. And then I posed the idea of like I wanted to start a World of Warcraft podcast because I felt like there was kind of an open space for a high-end PvE World of Warcraft, weekly podcast. There was some stuff in the space at the time, but it was not as focused in that area. And so I felt like there was space for us to do something cool there. Background here as well is that I had some podcasting experience. I'd been doing a Magic the Gathering podcast. Still have, actually. I still do one of those.
Tell us more.
Yeah. So that was one of the games I was playing when I was in college. I got into Magic the Gathering as well. So I was playing a lot of that. And so I did a podcast there. But the thing in Magic the Gathering is of the top like few hundred players in Magic the Gathering, every single one of them basically has a high-end Magic the Gathering podcast as well. There's 30 podcasts out there for high-end Magic the Gathering. And there's none in World of Warcraft besides with a couple of small exceptions. There are a lot of World of Warcraft kind of more broad, community-based podcasts that are fantastic, but there aren't really ones that go in every week and talk about like the new high-end news, right? Or the, dungeon strategies, raid strategies, class balance, those kinds of topics as like a sole or primary focus. So I felt like that would be something cool to have. So I was talking to Tettles and he was kind of excited by the idea as well. So we started we started thinking about it, decided we wanted to have a third person. Trell was the first person we asked. We had a nice long brainstorm, long list of people that we thought would maybe be worth reaching out to. We prepared for a lot of them to, say no. And then first person we asked, Trell, was absolutely down. So, which is I'm really glad that worked out, because I think Trell really balances out Tettles and I in a lot of ways on the show. And so we started doing a weekly podcast, and we've done it pretty much every week. We missed a couple for Race to World First or MDI stuff when that comes around. But otherwise, we've done a pretty good job of hitting every week. And for your question about why it's on, whose channel it's on, we did it on my channel for the first year, and then we've been doing it on Tettles' channel, and we'll move it over to my computer's always the one that's streaming it. But I think just moving it around between the three of our channels is nice. But not, you want to move it around often enough that kind of everybody's channel gets some love, but not too often that the viewers don't know where to go every single week. So I think switching it around like once per year is what I want to try. But I don't know, I'm open to ideas. There's no hard rules there.
It's an interesting strategy, actually, especially because there's three of you out there. It's definitely, I think you were right to pinpoint this. As in terms of World of Warcraft specific podcast, I don't remember anything being high end, at least, right? PvE, and it was a good, let's say, spot in the market, and you guys filled it out like marvelously. So it's beautiful. I
think there's more space. I think more people could get into it if anybody's out there. Like I know Pieces did their thing recently.
They started something.
Peace of Mind or whatever that thing. I think that's awesome. Rating focused thing. I don't know if it's planning to be weekly or anything, but I think there's way more space to be still filled here. It's awesome. I'm really glad with how Titan Forge podcast has grown since we started it. And
it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's grown. It definitely has grown, and also like your channel too. Again, I'm taking always the liberty to look a little bit into the background. I go on Social Blade, and I'm looking at the channels, how they perform. And I don't know if you did that for your channel on Social Blade, but you probably know better than anyone. Like since when you started, in BFA with YouTube stuff, and making the guides and the cheer list, like the channel went whoop. And speaking of cheer lists, I mean, this is. I hope this is not a trade secret or whatever. But can you detail or the research and process that goes into making a cool tier list video? How does that work?
Okay, so step one has got to be about a topic that I feel confident enough that my opinion is like founded to actually put out that kind of video. Because so like, for instance, I haven't been putting out Shadowlands tier lists yet. Other people have, but like I haven't been playing that much beta aside from raid testing. Right. Because beta is in general, I don't really enjoy just like doing all the World of Warcraft stuff and not getting to keep any of the things on my character and just having to do it again when it actually comes out for real. So even though it would be good to make beta content, it's not something that's particularly fun for me. So I have decided to mostly not do it. And I don't want to just put out random tier lists with. Obviously, there's a lot of mistakes that go into them, a lot of places of disagreement. That can always happen, but I want to at least have the starting point of it being something that I feel confident, sharing my opinion on. So it's like Mythic Plus in season 3, season 4, season 2 were all things that I felt like I was enough of an expert to give a reasonable tier list on. So then I'd shop it around, send it to a couple people, be like, hey, what do you think of this tier list? Is there anything egregious in here? And sometimes I do that, sometimes I wouldn't. But sometimes I'd get some good feedback about some spec that I misplaced. But at the end of the day, no matter what you do with one of those tier lists, there's always something horribly wrong about it. There's some spec that you put in the wrong tier, and whatever YouTube video you put up, 99% of comments are always going to be pointing out the most obvious mistake. And there's no way you can clear all the obvious mistakes. There's always going to be one of them. So you can't stress out too much about it. And then you just make the video. You get your tier list. You plonk all your specs onto it. It's a nice mix of, I don't know, what I realized when I put up the tier list is that a lot of people watch tier list videos. That you put the words tier list in your video and like twice as many people click on it. So that was when I started being like, okay, wow, this is cool. Can I make more of these? All right, let's make one for this. Let's make one where I just rank the affixes in terms of how well designed I think they are. Let's just go, tier list. That was fun. Very, very good way to form some extra views. Like that.
You found the secret sauce. Just start using it on all the dishes. It's fine, man. Keep the hustle going.
It's actually, I was about to say that I obviously watched all of your tier lists.
Yeah, it's basically
like
all of them.
There's like an attractive appeal about a tier list because your knowledge can either be validated or improved, right? It's like, oh, Arcane Mage is not number 1. Fuck, I've made the wrong spec.
What a shock. No, but it's cool.
It's tough because there's a lot of like people are really attached to the specs they play in a lot of cases. So like when you wade into the ranking of specs space, there's a lot of hate that that'll come your way if you ever decide to do that. From whatever spec you put in the lower tiers, there's going to be people who either that's not been their experience, which is totally valid, or they disagree with your methodology, which is also totally valid, or they just they're not really thinking about it that way. They opened up that video and they were hoping to see their spec at the top, and then they're mad when it's not right, and they post an angry comment.
Did you have anybody? Did you have anybody tell you as a man, sub rogue is so good? This guy out DPS me in like a couple of dungeons.
Yeah, I had somebody accuse me of being a balanced druid main who had never played elemental shaman when I rated like balanced druid above elemental shaman a couple seasons ago. In a season when I was maining elemental shaman and had never played balanced druid. So yeah, you got all kinds of weird stuff. It's
part of the trade, man. Getting all the comments. But I think it's. This is something really, really important that you mentioned, that after, like, if you decide on a topic that you feel confident talking about when making a tier list, you also throw it around to get some feedback on it. I think that's really important because if you are in contact with, people that are more or less experienced or more authoritarian in their fields, Mythic Plus guys or, class guides or whatever, it really helps out to get that feedback and get some validity to what you're talking about. I know this is something that we also strive for a lot when we're doing our guides, always getting feedback from the dudes from the class discords and making sure everything is proofread. And I think it's important, right? Because you are putting some information there that it may, if you don't do your proper research and get the proper feedback, you may be putting out some stupid, uninformed, bad things, and people may flock to that. So it's really cool that you get that.
Yeah, I think it's important to try to not be wrong. And I mean, I don't think you can be scared of creating content because there will be things that are wrong in it. Like that, no matter what you do, there's going to be things that you end up being wrong about. But I think it's important to make an effort to try and when you hit that upload button, that to the best of your knowledge, you put up something that you'd stand behind, and obviously comments will come in with good takes, and that's good. I don't know. I think that it's that pursuit of information that's important for you're trying to expand the knowledge base. There's always some degree of blame for the tier lists get a lot of hate for this is the reason I can't get invited on such and such spec, which I definitely empathize with that situation. Not being able to get invited based on the spec you play it's a rough place to be. I feel like it happened pre-tier list. I think that was a big phenomenon.
Of course it happened.
As well. I don't think that the people who are discriminating based on spec are really that much seeking that kind of information anyways, but it's definitely a common complaint about them is that people feel like that sort of mindset is what leads to not getting invited based on spec, which I don't know. For me, it's tough because I don't know how everybody else uses tier list, but for me, I'm always looking to play with anything that I don't play with a lot because I want to learn more about how it works and expand the knowledge as much as possible. So
okay, well let's be frank here. I haven't watched all the tier list videos, but I did watch a lot of them from yourself. And correct me if I'm mistaken, but I do believe you mentioned in a lot of these tier lists that, hey, any spec can do this up until this point. This tier list is based on, pushing higher and higher and higher. And also, when you I remember when you did a tier list for specs, like DPS specs or whatever, you always find, positive things about the specs that don't perform as good or whatever. And I cannot not be biased. I was just always looking for, okay, what is Dratnos going to say about red paladins? Let's see. He's going to mention the fact that we're going to do some super heals with walk. He's going to mention that we can, do bop something and stuff like that. So I think that people that are saying that, hey man, this is the reason, the tier list is the reason I'm not getting invited. It's a bit untrue because, again, as you put it, I don't think the people that are playing those dungeons at a high level are necessarily looking at tier list videos in the first place. So
Oh yeah, we get a lot of people like that in our little stream as well, and I made the points like because we get people like, can you make a tier list for tanks in Mythic Plus? It's like, there's people who do that way better out there, but it's all about community perception, and I've struggled this because I actually first kind of hit this concept when I was super deep into Starcraft 2, like super hardcore deep into Starcraft 2. The top thing, the 1% type performance can only be done like by a few people. You can maybe count them on one or two hands. So if you look at tier lists, like at least objectively, empirically analyzed tier lists, they're done at like the most, ideally at the most scrutinous type of analysis. So yeah, if you look at, number one is rogue, I'm only going to be playing with rogues right now. Yeah, you're not number one. The chances are that we're kind of like a little bit on the average side. And I know I've played with survival hunters who out DPS'd me, obviously off stream and off camera.
Because nobody wants to see that. Like.
As soon as that starts happening, that's when you gotta cut the stream, right? You just, my internet lagging. Sorry guys, back tomorrow.
Exactly. But,
I mean, it's tough because there's kind of, it's not like balance doesn't affect you if you're doing a weekly 15 key, right? Like if you were playing an Affliction Warlock in BFA, you felt it at kind of any key level. Like, yes, you could out DPS somebody else in a 15 if you were a lot better than them or a lot more geared than them, but there were some pretty big spec disparities between specs that you absolutely would feel it even below the level where it meant that maybe the Keystone's impossible or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, so to some extent it's community perception drives invites, but also to some extent Mythic Plus in particular compared to Raid, the balance is often quite untouched for a whole expansion. Affliction Warlock is I think a good example of this, where all of BFA, it's been rough out there.
Oh, yeah.
It was good in Legion. Looks like it's going to be good in Shadowlands again. But I think legitimately good advice if you were somebody who was playing an Affliction Lock in BFA and you wanted to push high keys is you kind of got to choose one of those two things, right? Like you're not going to have success hard trying to force your way into the bleeding edge keys as an Affliction Warlock. It's going to be like 3 times harder. It's the kind of thing that is like it's a project I'd recommend doing after you've done it on a meta spec maybe, and then then you have a network built up that knows that you're good, and by playing these better specs, the specs that everybody thinks is better, you're also kind of signaling to the groups that are looking at you that you're more serious about the game, right? You get very little information about somebody when they're signing up to your group. You get their item level, their Raider IO score, and the spec they're playing, right? And so given those pieces of information, you make the best choice you can as a group leader. And if you see somebody who's playing something that is, there are not that many specs that are like definitely wrong, but when you see one that's on that list as a group leader, that's what leads to people not getting invited. And it's not like it's not like people get the perception of Affliction Lock being a wrong spec. I keep saying Affliction Lock here. I love Affliction Lock. I took my ult in Legion. I'm going to play a lot of it in Shadowlands, I'm sure. I think it was just the most egregious example of like a spec that was badly tuned all of BFA. If you were in that situation, like you were getting not invited, not because the community, like people watched videos where Affliction Locks were rated low. It's because people did keys with Affliction Locks, and even if you played with a great Affliction Lock, they were struggling to do close to the same damage as everybody else. So the meta comes from a place, right? It's not like we just randomly pick some specs to play all expansion. Sometimes we miss stuff, but for the most part, at the start of an expansion, at the start of a patch, everybody tries everything, and what sticks is what we stick with.
Yeah, that is true. And yeah, you kept saying Affliction Warlock, but it's like the best example for BFA. Like Affliction Warlock pretty much was shit all through BFA, hands down, in all content.
It was good in Raid. It was good in Raid.
It was actually good in Raid.
Come on. I mean, we're talking about Deathstroke here. Is there any competition?
Well, I mean, I think a fair analysis is to look at class prior to the corruption vendor. I think that being able to stack 9 times the same corruption is...
Yeah, well, the nice thing about that is that if you're a good Affliction Lock, you can stack 9 great corruptions, and you're going to blast those people that don't do that, right? You're gonna blast the meta spec that doesn't actually engage the corruption vendor and like make their character OP. So you could kind of bridge the gap more, but you get to a key level where you're up against other people that are also doing that, and again the gap widens back up.
Yeah. At that point, we're talking like super. If we're talking about competitive play, and when I mean competitive, I mean World 100, World 1000. I mean, you probably know there's always going to be one thing that's a little bit better, and if you want to be better than 99% of the people, you're just gonna play that one thing that's better. I mean, that's not something new. That's not something related to WoW. So yeah, the meta does come from a place, and at this point, hopefully, it doesn't come in Shadowlands. It's just design wise. I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. Is that there's always going to be a best spec, right? There's always going to be that one that people decide is the best. Maybe there'll be one or two that are close enough, but like the most important thing is that the gap between the best and the worst is smaller, right? You make it so that you don't have this fire mage to affliction lock level of chasm between specs that we have right now. I think tanks right now are a pretty good example of this, where like on the live servers, Prot Warrior is the best tank, but any tank can do within like 2 or 3 key levels of Prot Warrior and be fine with corruption.
Yeah.
Whereas with DPS, it's 8 key levels separates fire mages from affliction locks.
True.
What's Arcane Mage?
So, somewhere down there as well. The Arcane's a little bit trickier because this is always true whenever there's these specs that are like a spec that is a worse spec of a class, is that we actually don't know how high those mages would be that choose to play fire if they chose to play Arcane, right? Like, because fire is better, the better players play fire, and so you don't really get a disproportionate gap between fire and the other mage specs. It makes it really hard to tell actually how good Frost and Arcane is.
Yeah, and the good mages will always not play Arcane.
All right, you World of Warcraft nerds. It's always like the passion always kicks us back into World of Warcraft. Hey, listen, I want to know if Dratnos ever goes to vacations. How about that? Do you go to vacation? Do you relax, man? And if you okay, excluding this whole pandemic situation, okay? If you did like go to vacations, like what was the coolest place you've ever been to? Or
I've been to a couple of different places around the world. Mostly with family, mostly to visit family. I got family in like Scotland that I've been there.
Ooh, Scotland. So you have Scottish origins? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Scottish, English, Irish, just kind of all over the British Isles.
I love this stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Where would I choose to go if I got a vacation right now? Well, I've kind of been on vacation for the past like month. I don't know. I mean, I've been doing some content, but I've been really dialing it back. Charging up the tanks for Shadowlands. And even if there wasn't a pandemic, I think what I would do is sit in my house in my underwear playing video games off stream all day.
That's how you do it, boys.
Yeah.
But like, what would be like the coolest place you ever visited, apart from Scotland and Ireland and England? Was there any?
I've been to Belgium. That's a nice place.
Yes.
They have these shops where there's actually, I don't know where the two of you reside, but in Belgium there's these shops with like they're all about fries, and it's just fries and like 47 different sauces. You just go in, you get fries, and you put different sauces on it. That was a great concept that I think we really. First of all, I'm surprised that we don't have it here in America, because I think it would succeed here.
It would succeed, yeah. We have it here.
I would like it if it were here.
Actually, they heard here.
We have it here, man. It's exactly the same concept. It's fries and a lot of different sauce. You can choose a little bit of I don't know, spicy wings if you want to, but it's mainly fries. There's fries in their own, how do you call it? Their outside crust, whatever. What's it in English?
Peel.
The peel, yeah. There's like completely dried out. There's big ones. There's small ones. There's swirly ones.
Wait, we have that. Is that like that. Right here?
Yes, you woodsman.
Oh yeah, because I got sausages from that place last time. I know.
Belgium, but you're talking about Belgium and fries. What about Belgium and chocolate?
Yeah, not bad there as well. Definitely chocolate. I don't know. The thing about chocolate is I'm happy to have kind of any chocolate. I don't really. Like, I appreciate good chocolate, but I'll also just bad chocolate. I'll also just
okay. So
eat as much of that as in front of me.
You're not pretentious. If it's decent, it's good. Yeah, I guess we're sort of the same here. Did you I know you didn't mention this, but I'm curious. Like in between high school and college, did you ever have like any job or part-time job or whatever, or was YouTube the only thing? Like after college, let's do this and that's it.
I've had a little bit of various gaming related. I was a Magic the Gathering judge for a while, which is where you when people play the tournaments. So I played some tournaments. I played a lot of tournaments myself. I played on Magic Pro Tour a little bit, but I was also a judge where there'd be events and you would just go and you get paid to know the rules and handle rules disputes between people playing Magic tournaments.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I made a little money in college from that. Ran some kind of like local esportsy events and sort of a organizer, moderator capacity. Made a little money from that, but mostly no. I was kind of in college, and then I was out of college, and then I was out of money, and then I was a WoW YouTuber. So
That's how it goes, boys.
It's one of the happiest transitions I have heard. And man, I really wish I knew that you were doing Magic before. I don't know how this slipped because I'm a Magic fan as well. I actually been only to one tournament, but I wanted to get into it. It's just that here in Romania, it's a really expensive hobby. Especially since I didn't really have any friends that played Magic, so it was always online and meeting new people. That was kind of cool.
I play Hearthstone from time to time. Does that count?
Oh yeah, dude, I played Hearthstone as well. I played a lot of that when it was, and not recently, but like the first 2 or 3 years of Hearthstone.
The golden days.
Those are good times.
It was beautiful times, man. So did you get into the beta, or did you play it after it released officially?
I played it, when it released officially. So from vanilla Hearthstone through like I think the grand tournament. Was route when I was most playing.
I think the best times of Hearthstone were those.
Yeah, I think I had the most amount of fun in Hearthstone before they added Wild. I think that's kind of sums it up for me.
It's good, but you mentioned that you're like from some Scottish, English, Irish origins. Is like were you born there and then your family moved here? Because I'm not recognizing any sort of accent whatsoever, so I'm just assuming stuff right now. What is the story behind Scotland, England, and Ireland?
Do you pick up fights in bars or?
Oh yeah, do you get drunk?
No, I sit in front of my computer and play video games all day. No, I was born here, but my parents had emigrated here not that long before I was born, so
okay.
I actually had a pretty thick accent when I was growing up, and even if you go back to those early Minecraft YouTube videos, there's still some of that audible there, but it's now it's mostly mellowed out. I've got a
I noticed, but
accent.
It's a little bit. I didn't really feel it that much. Like now that you mention it, sure, but I was. I'm guessing you still have a lot of relatives over there. I mean, do you guys like go for Christmas and stuff over there, or how does that work? When do you visit?
Yeah, holidays or in the summer. I kind of just tag along. My parents will be like, "Hey, we're gonna go visit so and so. Do you want to come?" And I'll be like, "Sure."
Yeah, with that enthusiasm, sure, yeah, of course.
Yeah, or to be like, "Oh, there's a new raid coming out. Sorry, I'm busy with work."
This is work, Mom. What you don't understand? It is work, actually. It's it's something that people should start realizing at the end of the day. Yes, sure, it starts off as this amazing thing I can do. I'm passionate about the game. I have a webcam, I have a microphone. Let's start doing it. But once you really start doing it, and it becomes something that sustains you. It is work. It is a lot of work. I think we stress this out in all of the podcasts. It is all. And on that front, I know you took like a, let's sort of say a little break, or you chilled out like in the last month. But like during BFA, how did the whole process of making videos work for you? Like the whole thing. Did you have like a schedule? I don't know, some sort of structure, or was it more freestyle? It's like, okay, I have this idea today. I'm gonna make it today. How was the whole process during that time you doing content?
Yeah, I had a little bit of structure that kind of built up towards the end of last year. Towards the end of last year, I did daily videos for like a month, 2 months, which was hard to do. Oh, yeah. I stopped doing it afterwards and kind of mellowed out again. But so yeah, sometimes I've had some structure. Sometimes I've had like Notepad documents or Excel documents with like lists of video ideas to make at some point in the future. Recently, I would say I've moved more towards like I have some videos I'm planning to make, but mostly I'll just, if I have an idea, I'll make the video and upload it and not have too much of a set schedule. When I get into Shadowlands, I'm sure I will start schedule. Like there are videos that make sense to release on like a weekly basis about this week in Mythic Plus, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've stopped doing that for BFA at this point because, first of all, the expansion's almost over, and second of all, every affix combo now already has 2 videos for it that I've done this season. So kind of no need to keep that going. But I'm sure I'll start that back up in Shadowlands and start up some kind of any kind of structured video. If I do a video that like is for a spec, then I can just do all 36 specs, and whenever I'm looking for a video to release on a certain day, just do whatever spec next about that, and make some tier lists, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, that is the hardest part, is the creativity of like coming up with a topic is always the hard thing for both podcast and for videos. Is sometimes you have the energy to make a video, but you just don't really know what to make it about. So it's nice to have some structured like spec spotlights. Then that's very easy to just go to that well and pull something out whenever you're not feeling creative enough to have a unique video idea.
That's definitely. But I did notice that maybe in terms of like what videos you're putting out or what content you try to go for, the Twitch streaming also impact this in a way? Did you maybe lean more into the streaming side of things and not that much with videos? Or because your Twitch obviously has grown also with the channel and stuff, and it must be some sort of balancing over there on your part. Did it have any effect on you whatsoever on content creation and stuff like that, like video making?
Yeah, I mean, you have to choose what you're going to do with your time, right? So if you're trying to do both, you're going to probably make less of either one than you would if you fully focused on one or the other. To some extent, there's also some, like if you're a YouTube video maker and you're also trying to like edit your own videos and make your own thumbnails and do all that kind of stuff, that's a lot of extra time that gets added in as well. So I think that generally the time that you're going to get out, like the per unit time, it's more efficient to do Twitch probably than YouTube for money. That's been my experience. But I think that the two do help each other. So I think that spending a little bit of time each day making one YouTube video, maybe every day, every other day, is worth it, because the two grow each other, right? You mentioned your YouTube video on Twitch. Yeah, you cross promote yourself across the platforms, and that helps. But yeah, I think Twitch is the best place to like dump a lot of time into, unless you are particular, like it is skill set based. For me, I don't really like coming up with really high production value videos that require a lot of editing, videos that are super structured around like guides and that content. I've done it. I might do some more in the future, but it's both something I'm less good at. I'm able to do it less quickly than I am able to do other stuff, and it's less fun for me to make a video I spend 20 hours and I get a 10-minute video out of, versus me turning on my webcam and putting up a Wowhead article and then talking about it for 10 minutes and 10 minutes in, 10 minutes out, upload that to YouTube, slap a thumbnail on it and call it a day. That's been most of where I've kind of moved towards on the YouTube side. I don't know. It's hard to tell what would be the best. Like I've got a min-maxing bone for just everything. I'm always trying to optimize things, and certainly I feel there are incentives to do things differently than the way I do it, both on YouTube and on Twitch, for the purposes of like maximizing views, maximizing money. But given whatever I do, like if as long as what I'm doing is making enough money that I can buy food, I would rather not do stuff that I don't find to be fun, because then I could just go get a real job and make probably even more money. So what's the point?
But buy food and also pay the WoW subscription. I mean,
we pay those with gold. We pay those with gold now that we've got the.
I was about to say.
That's the mount sales, the N'Zoth mount sales have been going along full stream for the past like 6 months now. The vaults are stacked.
That's pretty good. Proper. Taking a little bit away from WoW and from any outside stuff. Because you did mention a couple of things that actually caught my ear. You said something really cool, that don't be afraid of doing content, just go with it, and that's really cool. And you did say a lot of really smart things that I particularly liked. So I was really curious, because we also go a little bit deep into our guests whenever we reach the end of the episode. So what I'm interested in is like what defines you as a person? Do you have anything in your life that inspires you or that creates a work ethic or sets out your goals? Like what is your fuel for, waking up and doing whatever you have to do every day?
So like with videos and Twitch, I'm kind of always trying to create the content that I would want to watch. So that's always like a North Star that I'm aiming for with my videos, is like when I watch videos, because I watch a lot of YouTube videos myself whenever I'm just playing games off stream. I usually have something on my second monitor that I'm watching at the same time. And I'm always thinking like, okay, what are the parts of this video that I like? You know, what's the style here that's making me want to watch this video? And then I try to replicate that in my video, because like, I don't know, there are a lot of people that like different things in YouTube videos, but it's really hard to know what other people like. But I can always know what I like, right? I can know what parts of videos, what streams are enjoyable for me, and then I could just yoink those parts and put them into my content and make a video or a Twitch stream that I personally would want to watch. And that I feel like that is a reliable way to, if there are other people like me out there, which it looks like there are at least some people who share my kind of interest in what videos should be like, what Twitch streams should be like, then you're going to capture them that way without having to really guess what people would like.
Sure. It's like now looking a little bit back at your journey and how you actually think and actually go for with your content and your philosophy on things, getting it done. Do you have like any, like, I don't know, major goals set out for yourself? Do you have to, like, I don't know, something that you really want to achieve in terms of, the career on the whole content creation side of things, or maybe the casting side as well? YouTube and Twitch combined casting, is there something you really want to achieve? Are you looking for, I don't know, 5 years from now, what do you want to be?
I hope that I'm able to sustain, YouTube and Twitch and casting. Casting, I think, is really, I'd love to continue to do casting, to do more casting even. Maybe to branch out to games that aren't World of Warcraft even for that. Because I have played a lot of other games as well. I played some of them at a fairly high level. So moving into being like a general purpose broadcaster as well for stuff, not necessarily having a different main game than WoW, but being able to go and cast some events of various other games is kind of a goal, I guess, of mine. Yeah.
It would be nice to have like a bigger portfolio on the casting side for sure. But what other games did you play more or less on high end? I'm curious.
Yes. Okay. So there's Magic the Gathering, where I peaked as like I played one Pro Tour of Magic the Gathering and did reasonably. I did pretty badly at that particular tournament, but I had to win a tournament to get there. So that was cool. I played Hearthstone also reasonably high. Like I was top 100 legend a couple times in those 2 years where I was playing. 2 or 3 years since when it first came out. So that was a game that I was reasonably good at as well, very similar to Magic. Other than that, I played Heroes of the Storm.
Oh, hello!
Yeah, that was I was okay to pretty good at it, but it was, I don't know, it was a weird game to evaluate how good anybody was at it. That wasn't like one of the people in one of those pro teams.
Yeah, it's the team, Dratnos. It's a team-based game. What are you talking about? There's no carry.
Yeah, there were a lot of things about that game that I really like. I was really bad at CSing, getting those last hits on creeps in League of Legends. So I always played support in League of Legends and didn't have the last hit, and that was nice. And Here's the Storm just comes along, and it's just a game with no last hitting, and I'm like, oh, this is great. This is perfect mode. Yeah, but there were, to some extent, there was a little bit too much of stuff pruned out of it. Let's see. Other than that, what else have I played? Recently, I've been playing some Path of Exile. That's what I've been busy with over the past 2 months.
Is that? Yeah. Can that get competitive? I wouldn't know.
Yes. Yeah. There's a race actually. So the most competitive Path of Exile is like speed running or racing of it, which happens somewhat frequently. There's a bit of a scene around that. That is not the kind of thing that I would ever be good at, I don't think. But it is the kind of thing where I could maybe be knowledgeable enough to potentially do some broadcasting around, although I don't have any particular plans to do that. Path of Exile is just this game that has like 10 years of each 3 months they come up with a new intricate system that's like more complicated than most other games' entire games. And so like if you're just trying to get into it, there's a huge backlog of learning that you have to do to kind of know what's going on in there, which that was the fun part for me is, like it's like diving into an ocean. You just have this huge almost infinite amount of stuff that you can learn about it.
But Dratnos, what about Minecraft casting, man? What about that?
Is there competitive Minecraft? I guess there's Minecraft speedrunning. I've been on a speedrunning binge recently. I've been watching all kinds of speedrunning videos on YouTube, and there's Minecraft. They speedrun how quick you can like kill the Ender Dragon from a fresh spawn. Right. There's like all these different categories as well.
Hey, Flame, do you know about the Ender Dragon, man?
I heard that it's somewhere in the game. Hey, man, I just died to creepers. What do you want from me? I'm building a little cottage. I'm digging close to the center of the earth, and then my friends draw a dynamite dick on my castle and just exploded. That's the last time I played Minecraft. I was like, fuck you guys, I'm not playing anymore.
It's good.
Yeah, all the multiplayer Minecraft, it eventually gets to dynamiting everything. There's kind of no escape. It's inevitable.
It's cool stuff, man. Cool stuff. Dratnos, but do you actually? We kind of asked this on all of our guests and stuff. Do you ever get to read? Did you ever like read books or listen to audiobooks or I don't know, try to find tips for life or things that you're passionate about in other sources, or is it just content creation and that's it?
Yeah, reading books is something that I used to do back in. Yeah,
I remember the days.
They used to print these things on pages, but recently we just have our computer screens. And now you can do everything there. So I consume a lot of content. I read books mostly through the form of podcasts or audiobooks at this point. Right. I'll listen to some podcasts that are pretty much audiobook-esque. You know, even though they're episodic, they're basically, if you strung it all together, it'd be like a audiobook about like the History of Rome podcast, where it's basically just a history of Rome.
Okay, I'm noting this down.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That's a high quality podcast.
Is that the name of the channel or the series?
The History of Rome. It's a podcast. You'd find it's just an audio podcast, so not on YouTube or anything. But it's a good one to like. It's done by now, but you just have like 180 episodes. You just start listening, and at the end you've heard the entire history of Rome. So that I like learning audiobooks and having interesting things to do. But the actual process of like reading a physical book feels a little bit last millennium to me.
So 1998.
It's a little bit archaic. Yeah, that's why actually we were wondering, not about the physical bit, but where people get their know-how, right? So we can consume different types of medium from different types of sources. I know I watch a lot of. I enjoy my WoW podcasts. I enjoy, for instance, I like Joe Rogan, and I listen to other people lecture about different types of topics. That's also really cool because the nature of our thing and our jobs and whatever we do kind of nails us down to the desk in front of the PC. And although that is the dream job and that's nice, my brain needs some other things. And I'm always curious as to how people get their fuel, how people get other things that, expand who they are as a person. So History of Rome, holy shit, I did not know that.
Any other podcasts you listen to, Dratnos? Like something you would recommend?
I listen to a lot of like politics podcasts. So I was a political science major in college.
Political science major. Okay, that's going on the thumbnail.
Oh no. I try to keep. I've made a decision to pretty much keep political discussion away from.
Oh yeah. No,
that's the smart thing. That's the smart thing to do.
Never goes well to have politics on Twitch. Has been my experience because that gets there's never anything good I think comes from that. But I do listen to that. In my own free time, I like to keep up with local global politics as well. Other than that. I have a lot of gaming videos, a lot of gaming related content. Like recently I've been watching all the history of speedrunning of certain games. So there's like this YouTube channel where this guy just goes through like the history from like 2000 to 2020 of like what the speedrunning records and all the new tricks that people have developed in a certain game. So it's like, in 2020, this person got this 4-hour run of this game and everybody thought it was really cool. And by the time we get to the current year, it's like, okay, now it's a 17-minute run. You're skipping years of the game. You've got this spot where if you hold a bomb in a certain location, the game's memory, accidentally thinks that you just should teleport right to the credits or whatever and win the game that way. So it's all this like process of people discovering it. It's really, really entertaining series to watch. So I'd look those ones up as well if you're ever looking for something to watch on YouTube.
That's fascinating what the mind can do. Like, can you imagine people that just go, no, I wonder if I just hold the bomb in this one place, see what happens. Like, how do you come up with that? You have to have like one of the most out of the box thinking type of mentality possible. That's
yeah. I mean, they explain it as well. They explain like, okay, so here's how this was discovered. And in this run, somebody accidentally noticed that this weird thing was happening, and so then people went in on emulators and like tried all these thousands of different things that you could do in that spot, and then they, this was discovered, and here's how it was made human possible to do, and so
all good things come from accident.
Yeah,
I was born.
I love those kind of different. There's those rabbit holes that you can just go down on YouTube, and some of them, so there's some weird ones.
There's still some weird shit on YouTube, my friend. If you go there, you'll find it.
There's this thing on YouTube where like there's some videos you can get to where if you just let it autoplay for like an hour, you're gonna come back and it's gonna be like, you're gonna be watching a video about how the moon landing was faked and all that stuff. It all kind of leads to there from certain parts of YouTube, but there are other rabbit holes you can go down on YouTube that are just interesting, niche knowledge stuff.
And then you get put on the list now.
Yeah.
And after you do that, you'll see the YouTube algorithm start feeding you all this weird shit. Like, why is this guy here?
Pyramids made by aliens.
You watch like you do one search of one thing one time, and just your whole YouTube channel is filled with those suggestions.
It transforms.
Right?
Woof, here you go.
I just imagine the guys at the Google office are like, oh, he searched for conspiracies. Quick, feed him all the pyramid bullshit.
Yeah, get him.
Throw it on the feed.
Aliens, all that. Oh man, yeah, it's what a great talk, man. It's such an interesting thing. I'm actually like now we get into the end of it. I'm actually a little bit jealous because we didn't like get into all the political science major. I mean, that's some
juice there.
That's some juice. I mean, not saying okay what political choice you have, but it's a major in political science. That means some dedication, some hours spent learning, and a pretty good and well functioning brain.
Oh yeah, well,
and it means that the most realistic way I have to make money is to be a WoW YouTuber.
Oh, don't I know it? My diploma says I'm a specialist in economy. That's pretty good. That helps me start recording on OBS. That's really good. I was always trained for that.
Hey, listen, my major is in public relations, so I think I have the most out of the
You're probably the most relevant.
There's nothing to do with it. But political science major definitely goes on the thumbnail. I'm calling it. That's it. It's gonna be funky as. But there was one Flame. You want to close this with this question?
Oh yeah.
I know this was interesting to see if there is something like this for Dratnos here.
It's every person. I think every person has this in their life to an extent, even if they realize it or not. Maybe it's more of an influence or maybe less of an influence. I know I have at least a couple of people in my life that have inspired me, that have influenced me, that I have adopted certain, traits or certain ideas or ideologies from those. Like, I like that way of thinking. I'm gonna use that. Do you have anything like that, like a person or persons or people that have inspired you to think a certain way or to understand a certain thing, or to do things in a specific way? Do you have that kind of stuff?
I think probably for YouTube content creation, for thought process about games, I think Total Biscuit has to be the person
rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
The gods.
Yeah, rest in peace. I watched a lot of his content. He was a WoW person, of course, back in TBC Wrath days, and so I consumed a lot of his content back then. And then from there, I was watching a lot of his other videos around when I was making my own, Minecraft content. And I definitely modeled a little bit of my thinking after him. Not everything, of course, but I think that he had a really interesting mindset and take on games, and I think he did a great job of conveying it as well. So I've tried to use some of those best parts as well.
It's I think you're among the many that were inspired by Total Biscuit. I honestly, at least in the WoW content creation sphere, I don't think there's one person who hasn't been inspired for a certain extent by Total Biscuit. He was that influential, and you have to remember, Total Biscuit also casted.
He started it as well. He started the whole shoutcasting thing. That was him for Starcraft. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, that's actually how I got to know Total Biscuit, because during his WoW YouTube content creating years, I was like off the scene. I wasn't really into games that much. I definitely wasn't into WoW. But when I came into Starcraft, I was like, oh my god, this guy is so cool, and he has all these cool podcasts. I love the co-optional podcast, and I think I would be really interested to know how many active content creators these days have been influenced by TB. I wouldn't be surprised if like maybe over 90% of us have been impacted by it. That man set the scene for a lot of the things we're doing today. So
and that voice, man, I cannot forget what a beautiful voice he had. What a beautiful voice. I mean, I can understand now why Dratnos always wanted to go into casting. I'm pretty sure that Total Biscuit had some influence over that.
Yeah. He had a couple of things.
I mean, he largely created the thing. So
yeah, it's basically a pioneer. Well, rest in peace, Total Biscuit. It's basically he opened the door for a lot of us doing what we do nowadays. And I guess we can wrap it up here. An amazing podcast once again with Dratnos, who's over there at the top. And by the way, guys, gals, listeners all over the world, do check out Dratnos on twitch.tv/Dratnos, youtube.com/Dratnos, twitter.com/Dratnos, all those over there. See, there's some magic spells going on over there. He did promise that come in Shadowlands, he will be more active. And we're probably going to catch him on some more MDIs in the future and World First, so definitely be on the lookout. Always be sure to check out his content when it comes to Mythic Plus runs and tier list too, man. I mean, the man is right. He's not trashing specs. He's right. He knows.
I'm actually waiting for.
I try my best.
You're actually cool, man. I really love your tier list, and I cannot wait for you to put out some Shadowlands stuff. So when we get people in our streams like, hey man, Fury Warrior or Arcane Mage, like, dude, just go watch that. Go watch that.
But also just pick whichever one you prefer. Probably is probably the right answer for most people.
That's always the answer, but nobody likes that. It's like, but
usually if they're asking, it's because they don't have a strong preference as well, and in which case, then the video can be very helpful.
True. Well, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, Dratnos, for joining and being open, talking about all this beautiful and juicy stuff. I am keeping the political science major thumbnail, that's for sure. Everybody's okay with that. I'm nailing it.
Put an Uncle Sam PNG.
I'm not gonna go out there, my friend. That's it's still YouTube,
Yeah,
it's cool. And that's basically it. Thank you, Mr. Flame. Thank you, Mr. Dratnos. Thank you to all of you,
everybody, for watching and listening to the podcast. Because sure, you can find it on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/MarcelianOnline.
Yes,
but
there's also Spotify and Google Podcasts and iTunes. You can find it all over the place. So whatever you like to listen to your podcast.
It's how we Romanians talk about podcasts. It's an inside joke.
You can find it everywhere. Have a great a great week ahead, because it's Monday, and we'll catch you on next Monday with a brand new guest.
Yeah. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.
I'ma do a /bow. Still I play WoW.